All right, everybody, welcome back. Sam's Army, episode 2.255. We got a lot to talk about this week after a brilliant week of soccer, which we'll get into in a moment. We're going to start with headlines, where we'll talk naughty Nottingham, MLS machinations, and NWSL going gangbuster. Weekly what if, Pep's legacy. Premier League, we'll talk about the brilliant weekend that was in FA Cup. And of course, Tottenham taking a number 2 all over ourselves. So that should be fun. Around the world, MLS Minute, a look ahead at the international break that is staring us in the face, featuring Nations League, where the U.S. men's national team will play Jamaica on Thursday. And then finally, stoppage time with Ivan Toney's best bets. Overtrain is cooking with gas at the moment, FYI. And everyone's favorite segment, GOAWs. Okay, now time to welcome in this week's distinguished panel of beauties. And we got most of the OG gang back together again. It feels good, feels real good. We're going to start out with Mr. Nostradamus himself, back after a little break, getting acclimated with Loudoun United. And we were talking about this before we got on the podcast. I'm not going to give you the question I mentioned quickly, but basically, I think I've said this before on previous podcasts. You really have your shit together. You're like a 20, what are you? 24, I think we've talked about. You're a professional soccer player. You're going to
25.
school.
I'm
25.
25.
Oh, okay, 25. Grizzled veteran at this point.
Yeah.
He's going to school, like get your master's. You got a lot of ducks in a row that it seems to be lining up towards you being a big swinging dong in the soccer world. So give us, Mr. Tommy McCabe, give us your 10 to 15-year plan.
Well, next month I'm gonna get my own health insurance because I turned 26. So we're gonna start there.
Good
Thank
start.
you.
Good start.
Thank you. Um, and then after that, I don't know. I want to stay. I want to stay in soccer. I think that's a given. But yeah, I think I'd like to work in the front office. So you can take it from there where that goes in the next 10 or 15 years. But yeah, that's my goal.
All right. And when you run USL in, say, the next 3 or 4 years, yes or no, are you going to give us pro rel?
We'll see.
This is a long, pregnant pause.
Easy, Jake Edwards. All right, you don't get the job.
That was a long, pregnant pause that you have to be on YouTube to actually see his face. All right, we'll take it. We'll work with that. Next up, we got Tyler Terrence, fresh off calling another Minnesota United game this weekend. They're going to start requesting you, by the way. Another Minnesota United win. I think they're actually going to start calling for Tyler Terrence to call their games. But your question, we're going to go a little deeper than, how was it in Minneapolis this weekend? Because I know it was cold. That's what Minneapolis in March is. So we're going to get into a little bit of the sort of the call. We talked about this last week. Again, before getting on the pod, we talked about sort of the psychology of calling games, which is something that is very, as somebody who just has the brain of like an 8-year-old and turns the TV on and just sort of watches people kick the ball back and forth. I never really even thought about it, but you obviously, you live it every day. So when I'm not going to actually get into the psychology. I just want to sort of hear from your side. What is the best in your mind? What is the best game? Not individual goal call, not individual sort of play. What is the best game that you can think back and said, you know what? I called a really good game. I assume the game itself probably would have had to been pretty good. But what's the best game you've ever called?
It's a good question. I know one of them right off the top of my head, and this was kind of like a big aha moment for me. It was 2018 Concacaf Champions League. It was the two legs. I think I did Toronto's entire run from like the round of 16 until the final. I think it was their entire two ties against Club America, where they won 2-1 at home, and like Osorio had that sick back heel, and then Javinko had a ridiculous free kick at the Azteca. And I do all those games on my own. And that helps you get into a rhythm, because you and I were discussing that before last week's pod. that to me was like one of the first times where I was like, okay, like I think I can make a genuine career out of this, and like I think I might be good enough where I came away from it with that. But yeah, that's one of them. Sacramento, Sporting Kansas City Open Cup last year or 2 years ago. That was 2 years ago now, 2022. Yeah, those are a couple of them.
Okay. All right. That's good. That's exactly what we were going for there. And shout out Alex Bono, who would have been featured prominently, I
He
assume.
was. He was the starting keeper for, yeah.
That's
I'm
right.
calling him this weekend. I got St. Louis and DC, a little Sam Fam Classico, Tim Parker and Alex Bono.
I love it. That may actually feature in something we'll talk about in a little bit. We'll get there.
All right.
A lot of teasers here. Last never least, Mitchell Goulet, aka Overtime Mitch, whose Arsenal won this weekend simply by not playing. Oh, what a sad weekend it was from a Tottenham fan perspective. Anyway, along the same lines as what I just asked Tyler, you've been doing Overtime FC now for a little while, and you know, as we talked about last week, you were talking about Emil Forsberg. I mean, you've done a lot of cool things. What's the coolest thing you've done? What's like sort of when you look back over your Overtime FC career? What's the one thing you sort of think, wow, that was awesome?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know. I've gotten to work with some pretty cool players across all sports, actually, like football and basketball alike. I mean, interviewing Pulisic and having him like know of Overtime FC and like comment on the fact that like, oh yeah, no, I'm familiar with you. Like that's really cool. I don't know if anybody knows the origin story of Overtime FC or if I've ever told it on this pod, but like I built that from scratch. I've had a lot of different people help me along the way. I'm not going to say I built it myself, but I have been the one person that's been consistent throughout its whole lifetime. So to build that up and to have the biggest and best American soccer player right now be familiar with my work has been kind of cool, you know?
That's fair. That's fair. So you got an individual achievement and then sort of a lifetime award.
Yeah, just to
that you gave
who
yourself.
knows what's next though. I got a short time span like Tommy. I'm focused on health insurance and then who knows what.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, I'm glad we've delved into each other's well, all three of your lives and backstories.
Yeah, we still don't know shit about you.
I know.
You know.
I kind of like this that I get to ask all the questions and never answer any of them. Maybe I'll turn the tide and let you guys. I know Tyler's.
What's your deepest fear?
Deepest fear. That is a good one.
Is it not that you're inadequate?
No, I think it's my parents dying. If you really want to get
dark. Okay.
If you really want to get dark with it, I think that's what that or heights.
I thought it was going to be something like lighthearted and fun, like Spurs are never going to win a trophy in my lifetime. Like that would have been much easier.
I've been sort of totally acclimated to that for a decade, if not more, at this point. I don't know if we're ever going to win the title. See, if you turn the tide, I'm going to turn it way dark. We don't need that around here. No, I do appreciate the question though. All right, we'll head to headlines. Well, we got another point deduction here, boys. Nottingham Forest, they got a 4-point deduction. This is on the heels of the often discussed 10-point deduction that Everton got, which was reduced to 6. Now Nottingham Forest got 4 points. I'm not going to dig into all the reasons and explanations for it. Like, I don't quite understand how they arrived at this. The one thing that stands out to me about this is that we still have another thing hanging out with Everton. We obviously have 115 charges hanging over Man City's head. That's not related to this, but as far as Everton goes, Nottingham Forest, and if there's anything else that comes out over the next couple of months, we may not know who's going to get relegated at the end of the season. The last game's been played. We do that decision day thing. If we have the bottom 3 according to the table, there's probably going to be like lawsuits and like appeals and all this stuff going on. That is horrendous for the sport. Like it's like kind of like VAR sapping the joy out of goals, only like to like the nth degree. So this, I don't know. This seems like it's something that cannot, continue year after year with like the mid-season point deductions. I don't know, Mitch. Any thoughts on sort of this, just broad strokes? What's going on here and how we fix it?
I think the first thing that we need to do is assess all of these penalties at the same time, because when these come like, 3-4 weeks apart, and then, we don't know when another one's coming, I get that they should be handed down as they're dealt with, but it doesn't make sense to hand down a 10-point deduction, then change that to a 6, and then 4 weeks later, hand down a different 6-point deduction. Like, these are seasons that are in the middle of being played, and you're kind of like shuffling around the table in the middle of that season. Wait till the end of the season, and then do them all at once.
Yeah, I agree with that. Tommy, any thoughts? Tyler?
I think it adds a cool little element to it.
You like it?
Kind of, yeah.
But the players aren't responsible. Like, you're punishing the players who are working hard
and
fighting
fans.
for points
And
fans, sure, and fans. But like, these players are fighting for points week in and week out, and then you, in the middle of their season, take that away from them for something they had no hand in.
But how else are you supposed to?
I agree with Mitch. Wait till the end of the season. This
At
mid-season
the end of the season, when
stuff,
someone can decide whether they want to stay at the club, whether they want to go, like, it just feels like a punishment that you're not actually punishing the people that did what you're punishing. You're punishing the club as a whole, which,
and it also
but
makes
I think
games.
you have to punish the club.
True.
Like, this is all contingent on City getting like the hammer when they get penalized. Then I think there's some justice. But if it's just like points deductions for these teams retroactively, then yeah, I think you're spot on. But I just
if I was a betting man,
they haven't been hard enough with their punishments in the past, so everyone's like kind of fine skating the rules.
That's true.
I do think it's unfair to the players, 100%.
But a points deduction is kind of what you need as the punishment. Like, I get that. But if I was a betting man, I would say they're going to hand City their punishment whenever that happens during the off season. They're not going to hand
100%, because you can't have those big names in the state of flux that Nottingham Forest players are. No offense, but like, it doesn't really matter if Nottingham Forest players are sort of hung out to dry and everything, and they just have to go find a different club after they get relegated following the season. But like, if an entire Manchester City roster wants to bounce, like, you need to sort of, it's you know what this is about. I mean, like,
Or yeah, I don't know. In practice, you're right, but I feel like in theory, it's kind of fucked up that you can just hand
of course
out.
it's fucked up. Of course it is, but we'd all be naive to say that that's not the world that we live in.
Sure, we live in a society.
We do, based on rules. All right, we'll move on to MLS. So there are rumors afoot that some roster rule changes are coming, and probably going to be in place for the summer transfer window, I believe. Tyler, can you give us the lowdown on that?
Yeah, so it's regarding the U22 initiative, which was implemented, I believe, before last year or 2 years ago. But basically, U22 initiative is players who are like 22 years or younger, dependent upon when you sign them. It allows those players, and you were allowed 1 to 3. You were allowed 1 if you had a normal roster where you had 3 DPs who were all above a certain age. You were allowed 3 if you had a young DP on your roster, which is below 25, 26, something like that, maybe even a little bit younger. And so then if you had a young DP, you could have 3 U22 initiative players. And U22 initiative players are essentially guys who can make up to $600,000 on the tab, but only $200,000 counts against your salary cap. So what really is allowing MLS to do, which is like the direction outside of getting superstars like Messi, Suarez, Busquets, and Alba to come to MLS, is to get guys like Thiago Almada to be able to come to MLS. And, he's not necessarily a U22 player. He's obviously a DP now, but those types of guys from Brazilian clubs who otherwise would go to Europe, you can give them more money. You can give them a little more than $500,000, and it doesn't totally kill your budget charge as well. And a lot of coaches actually were really excited about the U22 rule in general, but a lot of them weren't willing to give up. A young DP is a gamble because they're still super young, and to give them that amount of money and that much power over your roster was always a roll of the dice. And only having 1 U22 player doesn't make a huge difference. Being able to have 3 of them is a big difference. So this is something that I think a lot of front offices will definitely be happy about. But if you read a lot of comments on social media and stuff, a lot of people wanted more than just the U22 rule affected, changed. I think that there was much more of an appetite for a fourth DP or getting rid of, or upping the salary cap, whatever it might be. So yeah.
So it's incremental, but a move that front offices will like, and hopefully it is moving in the direction that we've always talked about MLS needing to move in getting the younger, exciting players. Okay, thank you for that. Next up, we got women's soccer. So NWSL, interesting news. San Diego Wave, who's only been around since 2021. That's when they paid $2 million. That was the expansion fee for NWSL in 2021. The owner is now selling the team for, he paid 2 million. He's selling it for 113 million is what I read. 100, maybe 120 million actually, now that I see something online. Either way, that is a hell of a business move, number one. Number two, suggestive of good things for women's soccer, you would think. And yeah, a lot of interesting that he would want to sell already. I know nothing about the backstory there. The previous record for what an NWSL team was sold for was when the Thorns were sold recently, and that was for 60 million. Now it's 113 or 120 million. Wow. That is some quick growth, and I don't know. Good things, I guess. Gives me warm and fuzzies about women's soccer. Anything else, Tyler?
I'm curious what Tommy and Mitch think about the valuation of MLS clubs in addition to valuation of NWSL clubs, because what's baked into this price is this sort of like magical fairy dust that soccer is this like ever exponentially growing sport in this country, and that everybody needs to get in now so that you'll be able to cash in after a World Cup, after whenever. And we keep seeing the price and the valuation of soccer clubs go up. But like the truth of the matter is that a lot of MLS teams don't make money, and most, if not all, NWSL teams definitely don't make money. So if he is going to sell, I can understand why if the valuation has gone up that much. So I don't know. I'm curious what they think, because I just think a lot of it is certainly not the TV rights for either side that are getting the valuation up that much. I think it's kind of this imaginary thing that, yes, it is growing, but I don't know to what extent.
Future revenue opportunity kind of thing out in the
but
distant future.
It's not paying the bills now.
Right.
Right. A price like this, you're buying the future, you're buying the ceiling, which is very high for a lot of these clubs. I do agree, though, that not as many clubs as I think a successful league would be deemed are profitable right now for either MLS or NWSL. So these exorbitant prices feel really, really high. But in the grand scheme of things, to people who can throw that kind of money around, it's a drop in the bucket for what is essentially like a sure thing taking off right now. You're still on the front end of a women's sports boom that we're seeing right now. And I think in another 10 to 15 years, that $120 million price tag is going to be chump change compared to what some of these clubs are worth. But I do think there's a handful of clubs that can fail during that process as well. That like not every club is guaranteed to grow at that crazy exponential rate. You need to manage it well. So it's a gamble for sure, and that price tag I think is certainly inflated, but I also think it's justified based on the trajectory of women's sports right now.
Tom, anything to add?
Nothing.
Not at all. The only thing I'll add is that there's a little bit, investors and finance people, the one thing that they absolutely hate is like uncertainty and risk. And with the NWSL, there's a new layer there where USL is coming in, and they have been given D1 status by US Soccer. So the NWSL has some competition there at the top flight.
And just to give you an idea, Sportsology Group is sort of like a contract service that will come in, like the Chicago Fire have used them in the past to help either revamp the front office and the business side, to help revamp the sporting side, hire a sporting director, they'll do searches and stuff like that. So they released that 4 out of the 29 MLS teams are cash flow positive. So my question is like, yes, sure, if you're paying this premium for the ceiling, when are you going to see a return, if at all? Charlotte coming in for 400 or 450 million, whatever it is, yeah, you're paying for the ceiling, but if you're going to continue to lose money for the next 10 to 15 years or whatever it is, then like what are you paying for? It's
Yeah.
just, but again, for David
You're
Tepper,
paying for your spot at the table. You're paying for your opportunity to grow whatever club that you buy. And I think you're kind of, if you're a hands-on owner, betting on yourself. You're betting on the fact that you and your connections can grow this club to become profitable after a little while. I mean, if I'm not seeing a return in 10 to 15 years, I'm probably not buying. But then again, I don't have club buying money. So
David Tepper though, that is funny money, which is the
yeah,
sad part
yeah.
about everything, right? Like he got fined $300,000 or whatever it is for throwing a drink at somebody at a Panthers game, and they did the math. It's basically the equivalent to like all of us paying a parking ticket for $20 or whatever it is, which is insane. But anyway, this is all to say that if we're going to go full circle to Tommy's question about potentially bringing Pro Rel to the United States when he's the president of the USL, fingers crossed, this is why nobody wants to do it, because you're putting even more of your investment on the line, not only on the line of potentially losing out on that 400 million that you paid, but just the possibility of like remaining in debt and remaining a non-profitable club. Like it's just
And what you're right. You're 100% right. And what people are buying, like whoever buys that San Diego team, if they're not expecting to see, cash flow positivity in the next few years, like they are buying a ticket that they can then sell the team for whatever in 5 to 10 years. That becomes real tough when in an environment where there's promotion and relegation. It becomes way different. So yeah, there's a lot of potential flies in the ointment. As much as us, the fans, want to see promotion and relegation, there are some real.
A wise man once said, "We'll get promotion relegation in this league when more owners than not are more comfortable with growing the game than they are with just perpetually losing money." And I don't know if soccer is big enough in this country, or maybe we have to wait another 2 generations for that actually to happen.
That person is very smart. Well, it definitely wasn't me. All right, move on to weekly what if for this week. So we're talking about this dovetails nicely with what we were just talking about a moment ago. So if Manchester City is found guilty of all or most or just the biggest charges of the 115 they're hanging over their head at this moment, Tommy, we'll go to you first. What does that mean for Pep's legacy?
It's funny you say this because I'm watching the Patriots like dynasty thing on Apple TV, and they bring up all the controversy, Deflategate, Spygate, all this. I don't think it does anything.
You don't think so?
No.
You think you can overcome it?
Our attention span is too short to care.
It's sad. That's sad, but I think probably true. I think in a general.
I think it's because if they operated within the financial play that is fair, that Pep would still be the best coach and he would still get the best out of his guys no matter who was on his roster. He still is.
I also don't think like Pep's legacy, and this might be a hotter take, it has anything to do with the trophies. For me, it's like the type of
okay, settle down. Okay. If he
stroking
never
the
won a
ball.
trophy,
that is his legacy for me.
if he never won a trophy, you don't think he'd go down as like the fucking Charles Barkley or the John Stockton of soccer?
That's not a bad thing.
That's not a bad, but no.
I hear, but like, listen, he's already
like
won
Bielsa,
some of these trophies.
like Bielsa and De Zerbi, 2 coaches right now that are probably going to have like leave a lasting legacy on the game, but haven't won many, if any, trophies.
Bielsa brought Leeds back from the dead.
Yeah,
yes,
that's a trophy.
Yes, I said I said many, not.
And De Zerbi, I think he won some in what was it, Ukraine or?
He might, yeah, I think with Shakhtar.
Yeah, I think he won some there.
Like, and I'm sure he'll win eventually, but like, for me, I think his legacy has more to do with like.
Tommy hates winning. It's just in.
No,
it's more about vibes.
Just a little bit deeper than the winning. Yes.
Mitchell, you disagree?
I wasn't paying attention. I was sending an email.
You think if City goes down hard for the financial fair play stuff, does that hurt Pep's legacy?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Why wouldn't it? You can't claim all of these titles. Like, obviously he's still going to be one of the greatest players of all time, but like, I don't know. Barry Bonds is still one of the best hitters of all time. He's still got a tainted legacy for cheating. It's not exactly the same, but you can acknowledge the skill and the superiority while also acknowledging that, like, yeah, you bent the rules a little bit to do so.
Yeah, it'll be
It's
interesting.
not, it's gray area, but like it is going to have an asterisk next to his legacy.
For total purists like Tommy, it's not going to have any impact because Tommy he realizes Pep is like, he's got this big brain and he's just a coach that's like on another level. Whereas
Yeah.
little peasants like us, we're going to see sort of some of those trophies as being slightly tainted, and maybe we'll think slightly less. I don't know. That's what I think.
I don't think it's going to get tainted. I just think it for a different reason than Tommy does.
Because they're not going to get they're not going to get found guilty.
No, because I still think that even if if they were operating within the laws, that he would still have won plus or minus 30 trophies of what he won without doing it.
Okay.
But like that's not an actual. You can argue if Barry Bonds wasn't on steroids, he still would have hit X number of home runs too. The fact of the matter is that like they have committed these violations as a club.
But
And
like Barry Bonds, before Pep had the financial backing of an entire country, he still was an incredible coach, and Barry Bonds was still an incredible baseball player before he was juicing.
True,
correct.
But he
That's
also had
why
Barca's money and Bayern's money, which in those,
But if we were to go back, like, were there violations of financial fair play back then? No, it didn't exist. Like he was operating within whatever rules were, or maybe I don't. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I don't think that he was operating outside the bounds of the rules. I don't know. Maybe Barca, we don't really know what's going on back there, but I do think he was within the bounds of the rules at Barca and Bayern. City obviously comes with question marks, and we'll see. I actually kind of agree with Tommy. I just think our collective brains are that of like a fruit fly at this point. And 5 minutes after he gets penalized, we will have forgotten it. Whereas we will remember the fact that he's got every trophy under the sun.
Yep.
That's my thought. Okay, Premier League time. This weekend was a lot of fun from a neutral's perspective. Some of the games this weekend were incredible. FA Cup, two of the better games we'll probably see all season. Manchester United and Liverpool ended up being 4-3 United. Wolves hosting Coventry City from the Championship. Coventry City comes back, wins it at the death, actually just like United in a certain sense, and shout out Haji Wright, who got the game winner. Let's talk about Liverpool, Manchester United first. I got so many messages from United fans this week, and I did not think Tyler was going to show his face this week, but he did. So credit to Tyler, and your prize is you get to start this off. Let us know what did you? I mean, honestly, the game itself, from a neutral's perspective, was pretty awesome. I was just back and forth, like both teams scoring in extra time. How often does that happen? Not often, a lot. It was an awesome game to watch. Maybe not from your perspective, but what would you come away thinking?
I've thought about it a lot over the past 24 hours. And number one, people should know that, and this is me being honest with all of you, okay? I know I'm a very emotional guy on this podcast and that I rub a lot of people the wrong way, but I'm just going to tell you that when Sam texted me this morning to ask me if I wanted to talk about it on the pod today, my initial answer was no, for no other reason than I didn't want to have to do this. I was pissed off, and I was rationalizing it in my head as like, oh, Mondays are my day off. I need to like try to not do. I tried to do as little soccer as possible. Like, even though I still ended up watching 4 post-game press conferences today, I was like, I don't want to do it. And then I heard some people talking about it on Sirius, and I saw some things online, and then I texted Sam back, and I was like, fuck this. I need to be a man and face the music. Yeah, I mean, the game was super entertaining. And this is all going to be hindsight is 2020 type stuff, and we'll never know. And I don't fully disagree with what Klopp did, but the lineup we rolled out on Thursday had a significant impact on how we performed on Sunday. Salah hasn't played back-to-back games like that in God knows how long, and he played, I think, close to 90 minutes, if not the full 90 against what's their face on Thursday?
Sparta Prague or whoever.
Again, yeah, second leg of Sparta Prague or whatever Sunday league team what they rolled out there. And yeah, I mean, I think what we see from United this year is this ability to flip the switch in big games. And the reason why they've gotten their doors blown off a few times in the past couple of years too is because sometimes they realize, I mean, good teams realize that they can't just do that. And that's why Liverpool beat them 7-0. And they've gotten their shit kicked in a couple of times. But they were fucking good. They were really, really good in certain pockets of the game. And we dominated from the 35th minute until halftime. And then there were pockets in the second half where we played really well and obviously extra time. I didn't see the final 2 goals. I was taking off as Liverpool scored their go-ahead goal in extra time. So I turned off my phone with Liverpool having a lead. And the first message that I get when I land is Sam's "oh dear" to the group. And then I check the score and I see that we lost 4-3. Mainu is really fucking good. McTominay, I thought, played a good game for good long stretches. I had to eat some shit today. There's no doubt about that. And I was trying to reconcile as to whether or not I'm devastated by the quadruple. I think back to the year where we could have won the quadruple 2 years ago, and I would have traded everything to not win League Cup and to not win FA Cup to win the Premier League. And I would say the same again this year. If bowing out in the FA Cup means for whatever reason we can turn more of our attention to the league, I'm okay with that. I really am, because I just don't care. I just don't care. Can you name me the last 4 FA Cup winners, you 3? Off the top of your head?
Not Tottenham.
City, Liverpool.
4.
And then Arsenal.
Yeah,
Right.
Arsenal was 2020. Yeah.
And Arsenal?
Yeah.
Okay, so Tommy can do it because he's got a master's, but the 2 of you couldn't.
I would have gotten City. I definitely would have gotten City coming off the treble. That's fair though. Understandable. And I mean, that was far more grounded than I was expecting.
But you have to be realistic though. Like with the amount of injuries that we had, something was going to give. If we were fully healthy for most of this year and didn't have these insane injuries, and we lost to United, I think I'd be really pissed. But like something had to give, and if it's the FA Cup in the quarterfinal, I know it's at United, and that pisses me off to no fucking end. But like, if we win the league, I don't care.
It'll be a footnote.
Yeah.
Okay, fair. I guess what I was surprised about is that you gave United some credit. I thought you were just going to sort of say we were.
How could you? Anybody watching that game? Mainu was class, and
You have to.
I thought that Rashford, had some good moments, and Anthony fucking scored. Hoyland had a couple of moments, but was kind of disappointing for the most part. Like, and then Ahmad comes on. Like anybody watching that game, like they were clearly up for it.
Mm.
Would I have rather had Kanate playing instead of my man Kwanzaa? Yeah. But we decided to roll out our best 11 in a Europa League game.
Now, do you question taking Salah off?
No, the substitutes within the game I'm fine with, because you have to sub like you're going to win the game. And Pep's gotten criticized for that in the past when they took off De Bruyne. Like you have to sub like you're going to win the game. But the lineup on Thursday, that I can be upset. I'm more upset about that.
Fair. Okay. I think, what you said about United just having the ability to flip the switch, like they do. And I was, like anybody watching that game had to be impressed with United. But it's like, that just makes you think, well, why can't you do this more often? Like, why is this sort of like a once every month type of performance from them, which I do not understand. And it's got to be really frustrating for fans. But like, it shows that their ceiling is just, it's up there. They're a better team. They're just a better team than like, say, a Chelsea, which has so many issues going on. So I think it's good. You gave United their flowers, and so I'm
Bruno's still a rat, and he's the reason why.
I was gonna say that you had some things to say about Bruno during the game, which you've left out here. You really do not like Bruno.
If I was a United fan, I would want him on my team. I would want him off my team yesterday. It's a joke. Somebody needs to tell him he's not good at trying to get
Buy
whistle.
fouls. Yeah.
He's not good. Like, he's just not good at it. There are players who are really good at it. He's not good at it. Cost his team a goal. I don't know.
Fair. Tommy, Mitch, anything else from the United Liverpool game?
Just a great game.
Awesome game. Awesome.
Great
game.
game for the neutral. I
As
think if you
was-
Sure tried his
for
best to lose that for a bit. But
Now, as what we were talking about Wolves Coventry, you and me at least were exchanging text, Tommy. That game, I mean, like, I thought that was going to be the game of the weekend. I mean, I think Liverpool United easily sort of beat it, but that's just sort of says something about the United Liverpool game. Wolves Coventry was back and forth. The fact it was topped off with Haji Wright scoring to win the game was awesome. I don't know. Anything stand out from that game?
crazy ending. Some good goals too. But that was a really fun game to watch. Just back and forth.
Just a
Team
good weekend.
at high end of the championship, like some good goals. So I enjoyed it.
And then some bad goals. You had like Leicester City and Chelsea and that own goal. Like, I'm sure we'll talk about Kellen and Costa's goal at some point in the MLS hit it and quit a minute, which was absolutely ridiculous. But the Leicester City, like, people were giving MLS told amounts of shit. Like, oh, you can't take this league seriously when they score a goal like that. I mean, did you see Disasi score, like, basically, just kick it right into his own goal? I mean, these things happen in every league in the world. If it happens in the Premier League, it'll happen anywhere. So I just wanted to point that out. And then, of course, the other one was Manchester City Newcastle, which ended up being the most boring game of the four, interestingly enough. So FA Cup semifinals coming up in late April. We got Manchester City hosting Chelsea, and then Coventry actually getting the home game. They will be hosting Manchester United. So that'll be interesting to watch. And, we could be headed for a Manchester derby in the final, which, it'll be interesting. Must watch, if nothing else. Now, quickly, the rest of the Premier League, not much to talk about, really, from the weekend. The biggest game, I thought anyway, the most interesting was Fulham coming out and just having their way with Tottenham. Now, watching the game, I didn't feel like that it was like a 3-0 game. It felt more like, I don't know, 2-1. Our finishing was terrible, absolutely atrocious, and they were the better team. I don't mean to like sort of disparage their performance. They were the better team. Fulham definitely deserve that win. I guess this just it can happen when Tottenham play the way we play, and we just got to sort of own it, swallow it.
I've started to notice a natural cycle of when Big Ange gets media attention, as he was fairly recently for talking about like fair weather and overseas Premier League
Plastic
fans.
fans, yeah.
Yeah, when he gets media attention and people start to focus on him, the team plays poorly immediately after. This has happened like 2 or 3 times this season that people have gotten really high on Big Ange as like a personality figure, and then the team plays shit immediately after. So if I'm you guys, I'm kind of keeping that at bay, because I'm not saying that he takes his head out of it. I think it's just the natural order of things that swings your way and then swings the other way when you guys get too cocky and high on your own manager.
The soccer gods come in and
they just
bring us
everything
back
balances
to
up. Yeah, it balances itself out.
Yeah, well, I Fulham is another team like United that I just haven't wrapped my head around this season, but they, they're a good team. What place are they in the table right now? They're in 12th, which is actually a little bit further down than I would have guessed. They got some good wins though. They're a tough team. They just look good. Like, Muniz. I don't know. That guy, he just ran circles around us. Yeah, we'll just have to bounce back next week. Any other games? I mean, there's Aston Villa, West Ham, 1-1 draw. Luton, Nottingham Forest, 1-1 draw. Burnley, 2-1 over Brentford. Quickly on the Nottingham Forest, Gio Reyna still not playing. This is a problem. I mean, I don't think we have anything to add on that point. Like this is going poorly. This is not working out well at all. But that's what we got and that's where we'll leave it, because we're looking at an international break. So we got no games, no need for power rankings, no need for a weekend preview, none of that. So we will just move right on along to Around the World, where we start with the Minute Man himself. Time to hit and quit it if he's ready to give us all he's got. What do you got for us this week, Messer Terrence?
All righty. Let us start where we should start. In our nation's capital. Washington, D.C. Troy Lesesne going up against a Lionel Messi-less Inter Miami. Jared Stroud. Colgate Zone gets the first goal, but then 3 unanswered from Leo Suarez company who get the win. A game in which Inter Miami showed their quality on the counter. DC were good, probably should have scored a couple of more than just one. Christian Benteke had some really good chances, but finishes 3-1 win. Luis Suarez right now is your leader after 4 weeks in the MLS Golden Boot race. Now let's head over to the Windy City, and I do mean the windiest of cities. Montreal jump out to a 3-1 lead, 84th minute. Chicago scored not 1, but 2 goals in order to win the game by a score of 4-3. The 4th goal being one of the most ridiculous things you've ever seen. Kellen Acosta trying to whip something in from about 60, 65 yards out for somebody to get a touch to and knock it back across the face of goal. Did it from inside his own half. The winds apparently at the time in Chicago in which the ball was kicked had been the highest gusts of wind throughout the week in Chicago at the time. And
was it like 50 some miles per hour, I think?
40 to 50 miles an hour, whatever it was, at that exact moment in which he kicked the ball. And if you saw the angle from Section 8 in Chicago, which is the South Stand, you see just how ridiculous it is. And yes, Jonathan Serrois did not cover himself in glory on that play, the goalkeeper. But if you're looking at it, it is the most insane amount of wind that a ball. Remember Tim Howard's goal that he scored for Everton, where the ball just carried with that insane bounce with the wind? It kind of reminded me of that a little bit. Yeah. Chicago get their first win of the season, and boy, did they need a little bit of luck from Mother Nature in order to get it. Still some question marks in the Windy City, but Montreal, for all that they went through, they gave up a silly red card to Raheem Edwards, former Chicago fireman. But anyway, when it was all said and done, Chicago get their first win of the season. Let's head out to Seattle, a little Rocky Mountain Cup action. Seattle, we're leading 1-0. They get a late red card, and then Kevin Cabral comes off the bench, scores the equalizer, 1-1. It finishes. Reigning champs Columbus Crew continue to just roll through everybody. 3-0 over Red Bulls at home at Lower.com Field, and they moved on to the next round of Concacaf Champions Cup. NYCFC, they had a rough game against Portland Timbers a couple weeks ago in which they lost a 1-0 lead and ended up losing the game 2-1. They beat Toronto by a score of 2-1. They scored the first goals on Toronto this season, and Nick Cushing comes away with another big win after a slow start to the season. How about Minnesota United? They have now collected 10 points from their first possible 12. They beat the two-time reigning Western Conference champions, LAFC, and LAFC have now gone 3 straight games without scoring a goal, not something we're used to seeing from the black and gold. Austin and Philly played to an electrifying 2-2 draw at Q2 Stadium. FC Dallas at home against the Vancouver Whitecaps. They got Vanny Sartini'd and then some. 3-1 is the final score in Texas. Sporting Kansas City at home against the San Jose Earthquakes. It is bad news bears for San Jose at the start of this season. Luchi Gonzalez has to be on the hot seat, despite the fact that they did get to the playoff game last year, the wild card game that is, and they fell to Sporting Kansas City, who would then go on to beat St. Louis. Speaking of St. Louis, I'm going to jump around here. I'm going to head all the way to Saturday night, and they tied. This is what happens when I go out of order here. They tied the LA Galaxy by a score of 3-3. Really, really good game. Roman Berkey, probably the best goalkeeper performance you're going to see thus far in MLS, maybe the entire season. All right, now that we jumped around a little bit, we're going to head back over to Texas. This time, Houston 1-0 winners over Portland. Benny Olsen and company getting back on track after getting knocked out of CONCACAF Champions Cup. Nashville, after their bow out of Champions Cup, get a 2-1 win over Charlotte. Nice little rivalry starting to brew there. LA Galaxy and St. Louis, we talked about 3-3 is the final score. New England at home against Cincinnati. New England are now 0-4 to start the season. Cincinnati 2-1 winners. Lucho Acosta didn't come on until the second half. He scores a goal from a free kick, in addition to just wreaking havoc on that New England back line, and a really, really poor start for Caleb Porter and company. And then Atlanta United, their rivalry match against Orlando City finishes 2-0 winners. Yorgos Yakumakis, clearly just one of the best strikers and one of the best goal scorers in MLS right now. And over the past 2 years, 2-0 is the final score. Labzionidze and Yakumakis with the 2 goals. And that would do it for week number 4 of Major League Soccer.
Attaboy. Attaboy. So quickly on the MLS front, we've it's mostly just shit talking on Twitter. But there's been a lot of talk about sort of where MLS and where LigaMX are in relation to one another. And the MLS had been doing better in CONCACAF Champions League Now this has changed to Concacaf Champions Cup this year. So the Tuesday, it felt like there was a just sort of a big, not breakthrough, but it was like a reminder of maybe MLS is not quite, at the level that we love to talk shit about. So MLS is catching LigaMX, who may pass them at some point. LigaMX came and reminded everybody that, they are head and shoulders still above MLS. And that was on Tuesday. And actually, not just Champions Cup, also Leagues Cup last year. Because we have to remember all the Leagues Cup games all played in the US. So on Tuesday, Pachuca and Philadelphia played in Mexico, and Tigres and Orlando City played in Mexico. Those ties were both going back to Mexico, tied 0-0. And both Pachuca and Tigres just absolutely dominated MLS competition. Pachuca beat Philly 6-0. I was watching that game. Wow, they really took it to them. Tigres and Orlando City, not quite as bad, but 4-2, still a dominant performance. And then finally, the final, MLS versus LigaMX matchup was on Thursday. Monterrey beat Cincinnati 2-1. Obviously not, embarrassing, but the Pachuca game in particular, 6-0. People, there was a lot of stories written, a lot of tweets made, all this stuff. Was MLS exposed, by this, this week in Champions Cup? I guess, Tyler, you're probably sort of closest to the situation. Any thoughts on that?
We go through this cycle every year, except for when Seattle ended up winning it. Yeah, I mean, there's a clear difference in terms of how the rosters are built, but the truth of the matter is that like this tournament is always taking place at the beginning of our season comparatively to the middle of their season. And you start a continental competition with, in some cases, because of the way that rosters are structured, with like really different rosters. Now, Orlando and Philly have, I think for the most part they have stayed the same, but Philly was never in that game. And Cincinnati were the only team, I think, over the course of two legs that really showed that they could like go toe to toe with Monterrey. And Monterrey is probably the best team in North America right now. They're a top the LigaMX table. They're fucking legit. And this is something we talk about every single year, and it always happens in the second round of CONCACAF Champions Cup, where MLS teams get their doors blown off. And building match fitness at the beginning of the season and participating in the highest level of competition, it's always going to end one way. Always. Can you imagine if Champions League started in third week of August, second week of August?
Oh, you mean like Leagues Cup?
Stop! Don't.
I think that, first of all,
and Leagues Cup is tilted in MLS's favor, because not only for what Tommy's talking about in terms of when it starts, but also because all the games are played in the US. All of them are home games for MLS teams.
That's, I think, the biggest thing here. I think that last season, the Leagues Cup and the MLS performance in it, which was pretty good. Obviously, everybody thinks of Miami, but it wasn't just Miami. Other teams progressed through the group stages there as well. It seems like, looking back on that, it was a bit of a false dawn, which probably could have been very easily predicted, given sort of the complications of all the LigaMX teams. They had to come up here to the US and travel around and live in hotels for a month. I mean, that's just obviously a different ball of wax than Champions Cup, where they come here and we go there. And when we went down there, MLS was exposed, but I don't think it was
games
a
are played at out. Those games are played at altitude. Philly were breathing out of their nipples after 20 minutes. They were toast. They just stopped running. They literally stopped running. If you were watching that game, weren't tracking anybody. It was fucking terrible.
Looked like it. All right. So LigaMX, their rosters are deeper, and they're still ahead of us. Let's just be honest.
You see what a certain ginger former MLS pundit said? Somebody asked him online, where would the top MLS team finish in Premier League? And he said mid-table.
This was tying into my my GOA. So
We'll hold
You want to?
off.
All right.
We'll
We'll
hold
let
off.
you.
He does that to wind people. He
I'll-
does.
I'll-
He did that on purpose.
I know he does, which is why I'm kind of, putting this all with a grain of salt out there. And I usually don't like to
I'll use
platform it,
I'll have another go. I'll have enough
but
time.
okay.
So I was reading something connecting to Sam's question at the beginning of this. There was like a report by this company called like CIES Football Observatory, and they did it on the teams that received the highest amount of pressure and how
How is
often.
pressure
You
defined?
mean on the field?
Yeah, when someone's running at you over like 25 kilometers an hour. That's how
I
they
thought
did it.
Gotcha. Yep.
And the teams, and they did that, the amount of times you're pressed, and then also the percentage of how many times you keep the ball when you're pressed that high. And Columbus Crew was top 5 in both, with Man City, Leverkusen. I have it up right now. So for pressure frequency, the amount of times they were pressed that high, it was Man City first, Leverkusen, then Columbus Crew, then PSG, and then
They're
Malmö.
pressing or they're getting pressed.
They're getting pressed. They're
And Columbus
receiving.
was number. What is that's?
They were 3, and it was like City has 15.2 per game, Leverkusen 13.9, Crew 13.5, and then for the amount of times that they retain the ball under that high intensity pressure, it was City, Real Madrid, PSG, Arsenal, Leverkusen, Columbus Crew.
Shout out Darlington Nagby.
Interesting.
Like, so I think for me, that is that's why I brought this up. With the Alexi Lovelace comment, the team that I think can actually do that is Columbus Crew.
Well, it's funny. It's funny that you say that because if you saw the clip from Julian Gressel's Z Soccer podcast, he was talking about how like Suarez and Messi, when he came out like during preseason and everything, they were asking him all about Columbus because they were like, they play really good football. Like that's European football. They basically were saying like these guys are super legit. Like what's it like over there? And who's this Wilfred Nazi guy? So they were intrigued by it. So if it's got their attention, then clearly there's something to it.
Fair enough.
Okay, can I get a number from each of you? Where do they finish?
Columbus,
Yeah.
I mean,
with or without a point deduction.
All financial fair play rules are observed.
But okay, yeah. So they're still abiding.
19.
Still abiding by the.
Yeah, they're getting relegated.
Yeah, you don't think they stay up?
No,
I don't think they get relegated.
They're better than Sheffield.
Okay. They're not better than Luton?
No, not better than the Hatters. Come on.
I think they're probably right where like Brentford is.
Oh, so you got them not. I mean, that's
Okay.
I'm. Look, I think they're.
Tommy just did quick calculations in his head.
I think they're fucking awesome to watch, but I also think like, maybe like talent wise, they might not be as strong as all these other teams, but like I think Wilfred Nancy and just the way they play and
depth
gets them another 5 to 10 points.
But just
Depth-wise is a big
depth-wise,
thing. Well, let's assume they're not playing in any other competitions. They're just
They're not playing in the other cup.
They are
Okay.
just Premier League.
yes. Yeah.
I think that is.
You don't think Sean Zawatsky is going to get exposed?
Oh, I mean, listen, we're talking to the best league in the world right here. This isn't like a shot at Columbus or MLS.
No.
I mean,
not
I
at all.
agree.
I know.
I think there is a real conversation for, let's say, Columbus in this instance.
Yep.
Come on, really?
Wow.
I think there's
What
an
other
argument
team would
for
you
someone-
have?
Okay, so let me
somewhere-
ask you this, Thomas. Is Columbus the best MLS team ever assembled?
That's a whole nother
Style
conversation.
wise,
It's not. No, it's not a whole nother conversation because
Ever assembled though?
well, what are we talking about if we're not talking? If you're going to say that
Currently.
Columbus could theoretically survive a Premier League season without getting relegated, that has to be considered the best MLS team ever assembled.
Gotta be up there.
That's a fair point. No, that's a fair point. So I think they're really fun to watch because you know what you're getting, like the style of play that they have. And then I'm thinking team wise, this is a big factor in which are the best MLS teams, period, is like how distinct their identity is. For me, I think that's a good predictor. I think Red Bull's like 2015, 2016 when they won the Supporter Shield. 17. That was a really fucking good team too.
I think the Toronto team,
Toronto,
that won in 17, to me, that was the best team ever assembled.
with what Bradley
think
Juvenco.
when Javinko was at the peak of his powers, Josie, Michael Bradley, Osorio, a young Mark Delgado.
I think there's 4, maybe 5 teams that are in this conversation. It's that. I think it's that Red Bull team, that Toronto team, one of the LAFC teams of recent, like the last 4 or 5 years, Columbus, and then you could maybe throw in an earlier Galaxy, but I don't think they compete on the same level.
No,
Not including Miami.
they don't run.
No.
Okay.
If it's half-court soccer, yeah.
All right. I mean, listen, it's an interesting conversation.
It's so hard to predict that shit too.
Leads to night. That's what makes for
Yeah.
good debates, though. Last in the round the world segment, we got to talk about the U.S. men's national team. So we play Nations League this week. This will be the A team. Like this, we got all the guys coming. Everybody that's healthy anyway, including Tyler Adams, who is healthy enough to make the squad anyway. We're gonna play Jamaica on Thursday, and then the final, I believe, would be on Sunday. I don't have the schedule pulled up at the moment, but I believe we'd play Panama or Mexico on Sunday. Yes, Sunday. Third place game, and the final is on Sunday. So Jamaica. Well, before we get to Jamaica, let's talk the U.S. team. So looking at the comments online, obviously 75% of them had more to do with Berhalter than they do with anybody on the roster, which I think actually is kind of a flower in Berhalter's cap. He must have picked a team that people tended to like if they're all going at him instead of picking out individual players that he left off or shouldn't have brought and stuff like that. There were a few people arguing about some of these selections. I know that Miles Robinson was one that caught a lot of grief from fans. Obviously, how much of that is sort of just pure MLS hate versus people who sort of think he didn't deserve it over guys like Austin Trusty. I don't know. Other hot button topics, let me see. Midfield, I think, was pretty solid. Striker was an interesting one, and that's the one I actually want to talk about. So we actually have a preponderance of talent at the striker position at the moment.
Great problem to have.
I mean, it's something that we have
No,
not.
we don't. No,
Well, we don't have a preponderance of world class talent, but we do have I think the striker competition right now is at a higher level than it has been maybe ever in the past in terms of the amount, the quantity of quality we have. If we're talking Pepe, Balogun, Sargent, Haji Wright, Vasquez, I feel like
I disagree categorically. Not a single one of those guys who you just named has proven with the national team that they can score on a consistent basis, other than Ricardo Pepi, who didn't even go to the last World Cup. Nobody has shown that. Until all of them are scoring at regular clips with the national team, that's not a comment that I think is a fair one to make. Because
they can't score at regular clips with the national team if they're not playing regularly.
Right, they're only playing for
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that, but none of them have proven it over the course of 2 to 3 cycles. I think Pepe proved it over 2 and then fell off. Balogun still hasn't shown that he can do it against a super legit team. Sargent just got hurt. Haji Wright, the jury is still way out on him and whether or not he can actually do things that Gregg needs him to do from a combination and from a defensive work rate standpoint. Nobody has proven it until this point. And Balogun, they're starting to lose Balogun on the club side as well. So
he scored the fewest amount of goals out of that group this year.
Yep.
Not surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Are you talking this season or this year?
This season.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is for club.
Yeah, he's fallen off a bit.
Pepe scored one more than him, and
Pepe's played a lot fewer minutes.
Yes.
He's coming off the bench consistently. He's tied for most goals off the bench in all of Europe.
That's not nothing.
I mean, Pepe's scoring right now, and he's not playing. He's not.
And PSV hasn't lost all year. It feels like.
Right.
You know what the craziest part is too? From 2022 to 2024, from 2022 to now, the beginning of 2022, Pepe's probably been the most consistently productive striker per 90 minutes out of everyone, and he didn't even go to the fucking World Cup.
I mean, listen, we've talked ad nauseum about Gregg's decision on that one, which a lot of us had questioned at the time and are still questioning now. Hopefully it'll just light a fire under him. It does seem that he's, bounced back in a way that you would hope, a player of his caliber would do. But Sargent, I was kind of excited to see Sargent this window. Man, he's not the only one, but his injury record is not good. And then Vasquez isn't getting a shot, even though he's playing quite well for Monterrey, which, as you said, best team in North America at the moment. So it's do we need guys obviously to step up on the national team level, right? And on this for this team and in this window, it'll be interesting to see. Do you want Tyler? Do you want Pepe to start, or do you want Balogun or Haji Wright?
Definitely not Haji Wright. Probably Balogun. I mean, just because I get sucked into the narrative that he has the highest ceiling, and that I mean, it's tough to disagree with anything that Eindhoven done up until this point, but like is theoretically playing for a quote unquote bigger club, and then maybe start, unless Balogun goes crazy, start Pepe no matter what in the final.
Really?
So just already go into it, sit them both down, and be like, Flo, you're getting this game, and Pepe, you're getting this one.
Okay.
Gregg's done crazier shit heading into a competition, so this wouldn't be all that out of the ordinary.
I could see them I don't think that's that crazy. Is like he gets 60 and 30, and then or 70-20, and then the other guy gets the reverse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but it's just I mean, I'm thinking back on it now and maybe regretting some of that, but saying one guy gets the final and one guy gets the semi is certainly means something.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Although it could be a semifinal and third place game, but yeah.
You need to win the semi first, so
Yeah, no, it's fair. A couple things about Jamaica. So I mean, so we just played them in the qualifiers, or the group stage or whatever, and they gave us all we could handle. It was at Soldier Field. I was at that game. They are going to be missing. So they got a lot of weapons, this team, and they could have more coming before too long. They're missing Leon Bailey, huge miss. He's playing amazingly well for Aston Villa, and Ethan Pinnock, who plays for Brentford.
Jedi would lock his ass down. So
I like the confidence. Leon Bailey, man, he's playing the best. He's playing the best soccer of his life at the moment. He's been killing it for Aston Villa. So that is a huge miss for Jamaica. I do think they have Mikel Antonio. He'll be there. Although he looked like he hurt his shoulder in the game against Villa this past weekend. So I don't know if that has anything changes anything. Listen, Jamaica is a real team. They gave I don't know what we're calling the squad that they played against. So basically like the MLS heavy B team in the group stage. They may have been the better team, but this is the A squad, and there is absolutely no reason, no excuses for us playing at home in the US why we shouldn't win this game on Thursday. I mean, I'll say 3-1. That's what I'd go with. Tyler, Mitch, Tommy, any quick predictions on this?
No. 2-0. Nostradamus has taken the break off.
I like 2-0. I like 3-0 late consolation, or not consolation, but like late goal as well. 2-0 for the majority of the game, though. I don't think they score.
And so we talked about striker. Any sort of surprises you'd like to see in the 11?
I am still surprised at how much hate Miles Robinson receives for even just being named to the roster. It's sickening.
He's a lightning rod. People love to hate him.
He's the MLS. No. He's this MLS sacrificial lamb. It's all people who hate MLS, and they're just sort of using him as the lightning rod for their,
If Carter Vickers was in that lineup, nobody would have said a word about anything related to Drake Callender, because nobody cares about the goalkeeper. But it's just,
as well they should. Although Drake is Sam fam, so shout out to Drake. Are we assuming kind of the Matt Turner's going to be in goal, I assume.
Yep.
Then we're going to have Jedi and Dest on the. I assume we're going to go sort of 4-3-3 with Dest and Robinson on the fullback positions, and then who would you want? Who would you want at center back? I mean, who would you start? Richards and
Robinson.
Robinson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Miles has been playing very well.
Okay. In the center, I assume we're gonna go with Johnny. I Tyler hasn't really played much. Definitely not
You said-
490.
Or do you play Chris Richards in that position?
Ooh,
Listen,
maybe in a friendly. I don't know about
He did it
this.
with he did it with Palace for a few games.
he did, but
Yeah.
Johnny's played so well with Batiste that like, do we really?
I'm with you. I'm with you, but like,
if Johnny wasn't playing as well as he has been, I would say I could see that. I could absolutely see that. The way that Johnny's been playing, I think you gotta play him at the 6.
I'm still not sold on him.
Who would you
Adams
start at the center
recently
back?
came out and said he was confident he could give 45 to 60 minutes against Jamaica.
Adams.
So
That was Adams. Could get 45
Yes.
to 60.
yep, he said that himself. So I don't know if that's a position that you want to sub out. Like if you're playing Tyler Adams, I feel like I would just prefer him to be fully 90 minutes match fit and not have to think about that as a substitution. But
And coming off a huge break and everything. I mean, like obviously he's gonna say he's 45 to 60 ready, but
He might get 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's how I would play it.
which is fine, which is okay. I like the call for Johnny though. I think he's been playing consistently and he's been playing well.
And then you play him with Musa and McKennie,
Yes.
and then we go Weah, Pulisic, and choose your striker of choice,
Well,
Balogun and Pepe.
I like Pepe, but
I think I'd lean Pepe. I think I'd go Pepe right now. Okay. So that game's on Thursday. Be there, be square. Now we'll finish up this week. Stoppage time. We'll start out with Ivan Toney's best bets, where came off a tough week last week, bounced back hard, bounced back real good. We went 4-1 on the week. I like that. Some big wins in there. 4-3 started us off real well on Wednesday with Bournemouth Luton. I knew it was going to be a good week when that one went 7 goals. Unfortunately, Rangers and Benfica I have no explanation for on Thursday, 0-1. I don't know how that game wasn't more, but then we got Young Ajax, Young PSV on Friday, 3-0, Hoffenheim, Stuttgart 3-0 or 0-3 on Saturday, and then Hertha Schalke coming in hot 5-2 on Sunday. It was a good week. This week is going to be tough. We really got to scrounge deep for games in the international break, but you know what? That's what I'm here for. So here we go. I've overtrained 5-a-side. We're going to start on Wednesday with Jeff United Chiba versus Shimizu S Pulse in the Japanese or the J League 2, the second J League. Oh yeah, we're digging deep, Tommy. This is where we're going with this one. So Jeff United Chiba and I assume that's the second team of Jeff United versus Shimizu S Pulse. That one's going over. Thursday, we got Iran and Turkmenistan in World Cup qualifying in Asia. Oh yes, Tommy, that one's going
It's
over.
better and better.
Iran's going to put up an ugly number on Turkmenistan. I'm thinking like 4-0 in that one. Friday, we're going to Ireland, first division. Bray Wanderers hosting Wexford. Really like that one. Saturday, we've mentioned it. We teased it earlier. St. Louis City hosting DC United. Hopefully Alex Bono is not listening to this one because I think that one is going over. St. Louis City and DC United both scoring goals. And, there's been some goals scored on both of them. Not Alex Bono's fault, though. Of course not. And then Sunday, we got Sydney FC and Adelaide United in the Women's A-League. Like I said, we got to dig deep here, boys and girls. So Sydney hosting Adelaide in the Women's A-League on Sunday. And there it is. We're digging deep. It's the international break, but I got some good ones. I feel good about these. I feel good, real good. Okay, who's ready to go? It's a tough act to follow, I know. But Mitch, you look like you're ready to rock.
yeah, I got a couple. These are all on Thursday. These are all international games. Obviously, I like Portugal, Sweden, both teams to score in that one. I like Georgia money line against Luxembourg. I like the Georgians, and I like Kvicha Kvaratskhelia in that one. And then I like the U.S. to score over 1.5 goals against Jamaica. You can also take them like money line or -1.5, but I just like them to score twice. I think that's solid. Put those together, you're at +520.
I like that. What's the United States over 1.5 alone?
-160.
Okay. I definitely like that. Okay. Tyler, you got anything for us?
Yep. I like a draw between Russia and Serbia. Okay.
Mm.
I like the United States to win. And let's sprinkle in a little both teams to score, Egypt and New Zealand.
Ooh, okay. All over. You went all over the world on that one.
Okay. Okay.
Any idea what those are? Are you putting those
No,
together?
no. My phone's charged in another room. I have no idea. I was just rolling through the schedule and just taking a look at shit.
All right. I'll figure it out later. Tommy, you got anything for us? Are you
Yeah, I got England, Brazil, France, Germany unders.
oh,
I
wow.
think I think
Okay.
all these guys are like playing for big clubs in title races, and they could not be bothered to play these games. I think they're going to be. It's like, for my thinking, was one of the two, like extremely over or extremely under.
Right. It could be like
I'm going with the
7-5 or 0-1.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And which were the two? What were the two games?
England, Brazil, France, Germany.
Okay. All right. There we go. A very psychological heavy pick on that one by Tommy. Go is time. I'm just gonna look and see who makes eye contact first.
Oh, I've got mine.
Go, Tommy.
I'll just knock these out. It is Adidas and Nike kit creators. I actually think they did a really, really good job with these. Some
All of
my
them, or
favorites-
any in particular?
I know I have favorites, but I think as a whole, yes, they did well. I think the Germany home, especially if that's long sleeve, is sick. France home, I think, is super classy. I actually really like England's home. Norway, I like. Nigeria's, I really like. US isn't bad.
Classic.
Yeah, I like the white one. The Belgium away, I think, is like
Is that the
my
Tintin?
favorite. That's the
Tintin one.
The
Yeah.
Tintin one, yeah. Love
I,
Actually,
it.
I think,
10-10.
I think Spain probably has a good one. Like, I'm just kind of saying these off the top of my head at this point, but I was pretty impressed with all the kits that they came out with. So well
Can
done.
can I
Yeah.
add to that? I think the biggest reason for that, and I know that they kind of let us down the past couple of years, is a post-COVID thing. Because remembering from my time at the Fire and like why they weren't able to go back to red quickly, because like you have to have your requests in
Yeah.
so far ahead in advance in terms of like even just baseline designs and stuff like that, and with the shortage and everything like that. And after COVID, I think it was really difficult for these companies to like pump out intricate jerseys just because they didn't have the manpower to do it.
Interesting.
Brazil's is nice too. Brazil's is simple, but it's nice.
You got to go simple with Brazil. No,
Yeah,
you
can't fuck
don't
that
mess
up.
that up. Don't mess that
It's
up.
just, it's
Let
just
it
yeah.
Let
it
the
be.
yellow talk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let it be. Tyler, what do you got for us?
And Postacoglu for saying what needs to be said, baby.
And this is backing the foreign fans.
Yeah, man. Why? Like, for how much people from Europe and people from England will give shit about MLS, and I know there's gatekeeping in every country, but for there to be gatekeeping of that level for such big clubs, and to basically like, and for media to label fans who come in and like, you know, from halfway across the world to label them as plastic, it's the opposite of plastic, and like and fucking nailed it. And people profiting off of these perceived plastic, aka Tommy's boy that he hooked me up with to get me tickets for all these games in England, and charging me out the fucking wazoo.
So it all comes back.
It's not my boy. It's not my boy.
Whose boy is it? It's your father's. You're related to him.
It's not my dad's boy either. You keep his name out of your mouth.
Oh, we're back to that. Okay, well, listen, what Postacoglu said made all the sense in the world. You know, a lot of the people online who are always giving fans to the giving tourists fans, grief. Like, they don't have to wake up at 4:30 in the morning to watch their team.
And the reason why their clubs are brand names and not just any run-of-the-mill club,
because those fans support it and put money in
because it's
it.
a worldwide brand, not just a brand that exists within North London or exists within Northwest England. Like,
yeah, that's why I said to all of us, is just like, you should thank those fans, because they're the reason that your clubs are as big and popular and talented as they are. Okay, well said, Tyler. Mitch, what do you got for us?
I like everything said, and I just want to add that, like, the reason that people are able to argue that, like, oh, my club is the biggest in England, we're worldwide, we're global. Those are the same fans that turn around and then criticize quote unquote plastic fans. So they have the benefit of calling themselves a big club, but it's all because of those plastic fans. I think you guys nailed it, and unfortunately Ange did too. My Goa is Luke Berry, Luton Town player, and he has scored. He's the only player to do this. He has scored in League Two, League One, the Championship, and the Premier League, all for the same club. Luke Berry has been there for just about every step of the way for Luton Town. I really want to see them stay up because I just love their story. I love the way they play. They get good vibes as a team. Points wise, it's not looking great right now, but I think they can make a late season push. But Luke Berry's my Goa.
That is a hell of a run to play. Just
Crazy.
To be at the level of the team and sort of continue on with it like that. And score goals at every step
score
of the
goals
way.
and contribute at every step of the way.
Right. He wasn't just a passenger for all that. That's a good one. Good shout. And hopefully, I watch a lot of Luton Town because they've been scoring a lot and getting scored on a lot. They just look like a team that they might find a way to stick around. It's gonna be tough.
Mathematically, it's not looking great, but if there's one team that's gonna do it, it feels like it's them.
Right. They might have that little magic. Nottingham Forest losing points, that helps. So we'll see. Okay, Goas for me. I got a couple honorable mentions. Brendan Aronson, who has gotten just endless amounts of shit online. Number one, he had a great game versus Werder this weekend, and then he actually got called up, albeit as a substitute late, for Luca de la Torre. So shout out to him. He's a member of Sam Fam. So good on you, Brendan. Kevin Sullivan, 14-year-old player, younger brother of a guy who plays on the Philadelphia Union's first team, Quinn Sullivan. Kevin Sullivan, 14-year-old. He's reportedly going to sign a deal with Manchester City. Now, obviously, if and whether he plays there at any point is up for debate. I've heard a lot of people saying he's going to head to Belgium or somewhere like that. But regardless, he's 14, and he, like, these, not just City, but like United and some of the other just biggest clubs in the world have eyes on him. This kid, I've seen highlights of him for a while now, and he's been playing with the youth national team. Yeah, this kid looks legit. So yeah, congrats to him, number one, if the deal goes through, and also just sort of shows, number one, we got a lot of talent. We just got to sort of you got to execute. And number two, Philadelphia Union, their academy, they just keep pumping them out over there. Last honorable mention to Nashville fans who started a Ronaldo chant, which is, this is a la what the Saudi Arabian fans have been doing to Ronaldo, like all the time, and chanting Messi, and Ronnie apparently does not like that very much, because he did the whole whacking off sign and got suspended for it over in the Saudi league. Well, Messi responded to the Ronaldo chant by scoring in about 15 seconds. So well done, Nashville fans, on that one. My actual goes, though, is Saarbrücken. So they're not in the second league, they're in the third league, the third tier of German soccer. They have eliminated Bayern Munich, Frankfurt, and then as of last week, Mönchengladbach on the way to the DFB Pokal semifinals. So they're 2 wins away from playing in, whatever, I don't know, it's a Europa League, maybe something like that. That would be just like Coventry City, perhaps getting a bid to Europe through the FA Cup if they manage to beat United, and then whoever wins out of Chelsea and City. Third league team perhaps a third tier team, perhaps getting a ticket to Europe, which would be pretty awesome. And the fact they've beaten Bayern and Eintracht and Mönchengladbach so far, I mean, you never know. So we'll see. Shout out to Saarbrücken for their run in the DFB Pokal. All right, guys, that's all we got. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Tommy. Thank you, Mitchell. You guys are the best. Thanks, everybody, for listening. I love you guys, and we'll be back bigger, better, faster, stronger next week. See you guys then. Oops, I hit the wrong button. Where do I stop?